I transmigrated into the daughter of a malicious cannon fodder character. At 1 year old, I managed to give myself a high fever through my antics, forcing him to abandon following the villain into a gang fight. At 3 years old, I schemed to fracture my own bones, effectively making him miss his destined encounter with the female lead. At 5 years old, I used a pedophile to successfully prevent him from collaborating with the villain against the male lead, Simon. Later on, the cannon fodder father screamed in terror, "Simon, you bastard, get your son's hands off my daughter's face, off." Can you imagine a villain who commits murder, arson, and every imaginable evil suddenly turning into a desperate single dad overnight? Calling him a villain is giving him too much credit. After all, I've never seen a villain who starts the story blind, crippled, and thrown into the sea by the male lead to be fed to sharks. After all, the true villain of this novel is both beautiful and ruthless, fighting the male lead, stealing the female lead, going berserk at any moment, attacking everyone indiscriminately, and only meeting their end after causing chaos till the very last moment. And the moment this fake villain dies, the real plot has barely reached 10%, with the remaining 90% dedicated to the tortured love between the male and female leads, as well as their life and death struggles with the actual villain. So, it's fair to call them a malicious cannon fodder, don't you agree, my dear father? In this lifetime, Dad held a cigarette between his lips, leaning halfway against the windowsill. The smoke blurred his handsome, sharp features, exuding a silent, unrestrained arrogance. Though barely 20, he carried almost none of the youthful naivety, instead radiating the ruthless demeanor forged in blood-soaked battles. I quipped, "A protagonist's face, a cannon fodder's fate." The system replied, "Well, that's normal, even if they're just cannon fodder. Any male rival for the heroine's affection has to have a top-tier face." Just turned 1 year old, I was practicing walking, with soft bones and still mastering my balance. One careless moment and my left foot tripped over my right, sending me face first into the ground. The worried new dad covered all the sharp edges of the furniture in the house with foam, afraid I'd bump into them while learning to walk without watching where I was going. I pondered, "You're saying my dad will go fight the villains in a few days, then get his eye pierced by shrapnel and become one-eyed?" The system solemnly replied, "Yes, this is a plot outside the novel. By the time he appears, he's already lost an eye, which will become the trigger for his psychological distortion, cruelty, and dark temperament." But hey, host, normally plot details can't be revealed. Even if you say them out loud, the heavens will mute them. Dad saw me wobbling toward him at this moment and immediately cursed, "Damn it," stubbed out his cigarette butt, tossed it into the trash, opened the window wide, and waved away the lingering smoke. "Can't I even smoke in my own room to relax without you tagging along? Are you that clingy? Go on, get out, don't breathe in this secondhand smoke." I almost forgot I was just a little baby. The smoky smell in the air irritated my nose, and I instantly turned around, covering my nose as I ran toward the door. "Daddy, it stinks." The poor dad, now thoroughly rejected, had no choice but to change his clothes and rinse his mouth 3 times before he could finally hold me again. He casually warned, "Next time you see me smoking, don't come over, stay away from me." I nodded, my little hand pressed against his handsome face, nearly drooling. To be honest, although my daddy is as cold-blooded and ruthless as a villain oozing venom, his face is truly good-looking. I gestured, "Daddy, stay with me these few days." A 1-year-old's language system is just booting up, unable to form fluent sentences yet, only managing to blurt out words one by one. Dad supported me by the waist, leaning back on the sofa, letting me touch his face, his eyes brimming with a tender smile. "All right, I'll spend these few days with my little darling." Just then, his phone rang. Dad raised his hand to answer. "Hello, Lucas." The system said, "The villain called your dad. Damn. Is he trying to get your dad to go with him too?" I faintly heard a rich, deep voice coming from the phone. "George, the day after tomorrow, arms deal, you and me together. If they dare mess with me, we'll wipe out their entire base." Hearing about potential trouble, my slightly drowsy father instantly perked up. "Leo's always been restless. You jacked up the price several times back then. You think he doesn't hold a grudge? What should be a smooth deal might turn into an ambush banquet." I slapped my palm against his face. "Hey," Dad pulled my little hand away and gave it a squeeze. "Stop fooling around. Your dad's handling serious business." I glared at him angrily. "So what you call doing the right thing is murder, arson, and underworld dealings. You're going to lose an eye. You know that." Dad couldn't hear the cries in my heart. He adjusted his posture to make me lean more comfortably. I said, The villain laughed. His voice lazy and pleasant. Oh. Is the little pig also by your side? I was furious. You are the pig, your whole family are pigs. Just because I ate a little more and was a little rounder as a baby, this scumbag said I was as fat as a pig. I still remember my first meeting with the villain. The villain was dressed in a wine-red suit, his beautiful and delicate face like a reincarnated demon. He seemed to be smiling, but his captivating foxy eyes were cold and heartless, so beautiful, unlike my father's handsome, masculine, and coldly sharp features. The villain is more like a poppy flower soaked in blood, gently swaying as it grows in hell, utterly beautiful yet utterly dangerous. As someone who's obsessed with good looks, I was instantly smitten and about to reach out for a hug. Then the beauty opened her mouth and said, George, did you raise a pig, so fat? Aren't you afraid the stroller will collapse? The illusion shattered. As a girl, you can't be called fat. Being handsome doesn't give you a pass. So when he leaned in close to examine me, my originally outstretched arms for a hug turned into fists, landing 2 solid punches on his face. From then on, I earned the nickname, Little Pig. The villain teased lightly, your daughter can talk now. Dad scratched my chin and said, she just started speaking these past few days. He said with great enthusiasm, do you know what her first words were? She said, Daddy, I love you. I was so happy I almost fainted. The villain playfully urged me. Come on, call me uncle, I said. Piggy pig, Dad said. I told you she holds grudges, but you wouldn't listen. The villain was speechless. The villain casually changed the subject, ready to discuss some bloody and brutal matters with Dad. Like skinning so-and-so, crushing so-and-so's legs, or chopping off so-and-so's fingers. Dad, afraid of scaring me, set me down on the ground and told me to go play somewhere else. I walked to the balcony on my own and happily discussed with the villain how to double-cross each other. After their conversation ended, Dad picked me up with one hand and made me a bottle of milk. His movements so practiced it was heartbreaking. Sweetheart, I'm sorry, but I have to break my promise. I need to go out for a few days to take care of something very important. Be a good girl and wait for me at home. Okay, tell Auntie Zhang whatever you want to eat. Clutching the bottle, I tilted my little face up and pleaded pitifully, Daddy, don't go, stay home with me. Dad crouched down and patted my head. No, this matter is very important. I stared at him gloomily. Dad didn't even blink as he met my gaze. The tactic of wailing, I'd used it countless times since infancy to ruin Dad's schemes with the villains. A baby's crying can still be said to be an instinctive reaction, but now that I'm 1 year old, it's no longer acting cute, it's throwing a tantrum. I said slowly, okay, but secretly, I asked the system, I remember there's an item in your store that can make someone run a high fever, right? The system replied, yes, host, are you thinking of? I said. I can't just stand by and watch my dad become disabled. How long can this prop last? The system replied, 3 days, and there are no side effects. I said, that's enough. Just as Dad was gearing up, eager to follow the villain to overturn tables and kill people, I've already taken the pill given by the system and swallowed it. 1 minute later, I sat on the ground, feeling listless. 5 minutes later, the whole person was burning with a fierce intensity. Aunt Jane had just made me some lean meat porridge. When she tried to pick me up, she touched my scalding skin. Aunt Jane, scared out of her wits, picked me up and rushed me to the hospital. The driver floored the gas pedal, and the car sped off. On the way, she couldn't believe it when she took her temperature, 40 degrees Celsius. I was burning up, my face flushed red, feeling utterly miserable, and sobbed as I called for Dad. Aunt Jane frantically called Dad and said, Sir, the young lady has a fever. It's very noisy on Dad's side, and I faintly heard the sound of airport announcements. Dad seemed stunned as if hit by a stick. What did you say? Snow has a fever. Aunt Jane spoke rapidly. I just made some lean meat porridge and was about to feed Miss when I noticed her body was burning up. I just took her temperature, and it's 40 degrees. We're already on our way to the People's Hospital, Dad exclaimed. What? I whimpered and squirmed. Feeling miserable and aggrieved, Daddy, it's hot. Woo-woo, Daddy. Dad panicked. I'm coming back right now. Snow, don't cry, Daddy's here. The villain beside them. You're just leaving like that. What about me? Dad said coldly. My daughter has a fever. I need to take care of her, so I'm not going. Deal with those people yourself. With your skills, I'm sure you can handle it. The villain is speechless. My birth was the result of someone maliciously scheming against the villain Lucas. But unexpectedly, it was his good brother George who fell into the trap and ended up in bed with my biological mother. Just once was enough to conceive me. After 10 months of pregnancy, the woman obtained George's biological sample and, as soon as I was born, threw me along with the paternity test at the doorstep of the Chi family. Burning with fever, my mind was hazy. I dreamed of when I was first sent to my cannon fodder dad. The dad I met before said, "There's nothing money can't solve." He quickly handpicked 3 nannies, offering a monthly salary of $50,000, intending to get rid of me, this burden, while he and Lucas continued to conspire and do heinous things. However, I cried often, cries when wet the bed, cries when poops too, even after being cleaned up, keeps on crying, cries when held by the nanny, cries when not held too, cries when hungry, cries with renewed energy after being fed, screaming with heart-wrenching intensity. The entire villa was filled with the baby's cries. The only time the crying stopped was when Dad entertained me with a small rattle drum. No matter how the experienced nanny tried to soothe, nothing worked, and her pleading gaze turned to the baby's biological father. Dad was speechless. Dad had no other choice. He couldn't just watch me cry myself to exhaustion, so he stepped forward and, under the nanny's guidance, clumsily picked me up. It was truly magical. The moment the baby landed in her father's arms, she stopped wailing. She even opened her tiny hands, looked at her dad, and started babbling with laughter. The nanny complimented, "It seems the little miss is very fond of you, sir." Dad stared expressionlessly at my tear's not streaked face, his disgust unmistakable. "Don't laugh, you're already ugly, and smiling makes it worse." I was speechless. I held in a massive one, the stench of shit slowly wafting into the nostrils of everyone near me. Dad's face turned green, the nanny's smile froze. He glared at me with gritted teeth and said, "You little brat, are you doing this on purpose?" I looked at him innocently. "I don't know, I'm just a baby who can't even control my pee and poop." Dad's OCD kicked in, feeling as if he had also gotten dirty, with the sensation of cockroaches crawling all over his body. Without a second thought, he was about to toss me back to the nanny and rush to change his clothes. I reached out my tiny hand, directly grabbing his index finger and shaking it, babbling a couple of sounds. Dad tentatively asked, "Do you want me to wash your bottom and change your diaper?" I blinked my eyes repeatedly. Dad frowned and said, "No way, do you think you're my ancestor? I've already hired a professional nanny to take care of you. Don't be ungrateful." 1 minute later, Dad, with a sour expression, follows the nanny's instructions on how to handle a baby who's just pooped. Place me on the changing pad. Remove the dirty diaper and throw it away. Those hands that could deftly disassemble any firearm were now gently wiping my bottom with warm, moistened tissue, followed by a rinse with warm water. After drying me off, he carefully applied diaper rash cream and clumsily fastened the diaper around me. He stared at me with mild exasperation for a long moment before saying, "You really are my little ancestor." I giggled while clutching his finger. Father's cold and indifferent heart seemed to be struck by something, suddenly softening. He poked my cheek, leaving a little dimple with each poke, and scoffed. "Little brat," I said. Father said, "You don't look that stupid after all." Quite cute. I was speechless. After that day, Dad embarked on a long and exhausting journey of parenting. When Lucas video called his dad, he was startled, hesitantly. He asked, "George, how did you become so haggard?" Dad looked pale, his once sharp and domineering eyes now filled with a lifeless resentment, dark circles under his eyes, his hair sticking out in disarray, and even stubble sprouting on his chin. The clothes that had fit him perfectly just a few months ago now hung loosely on his frame. What's worse, she had to rock a rattle to lull me to sleep while holding a stack of company documents in her other hand to deal with work. A black and white mixed-race thug brutally transforms into a resentful family father. In contrast, sitting in the crib was me, plump and fair, with a healthy rosy glow on my cheeks, babbling in a language no one could understand. Lucas teased, "I remember you nearly died last time from a gunshot to the chest and spent months in the hospital, but you weren't as skinny as you are now, were you? Is raising a child really this exhausting?" Dad snapped, "If I hadn't taken that disaster for you, would I be suffering like this?" Lucas clicked his tongue twice, showing no sign of shame. His gaze swept over my face, devoid of any emotion, somewhere between scrutiny and disdain. His tone was icy and indifferent. "If you really don't want to raise her, just hand her over to a nanny or send her to a good family. It's just a little girl, why bother doing it yourself?" people like them, who have walked in darkness for years, committing fratricide and patricide, their hands stained with blood, are born with cold hearts. They don't even love themselves, let alone a troublesome baby. Dad shot him a glare. Clearly annoyed by Lucas's attitude, he reached for a cigarette but stopped himself when he remembered I was there. What do you mean, some little girl? That's my daughter. I'll raise her if I want to, Lucas said leisurely. Fine, do as you please. It's not my problem anyway. I'm here to talk about our collaboration. The project in West District. Wah. The previously quiet baby suddenly burst into ear-splitting wails, loud enough to shake the entire villa. Dad said, "Oh, my little ancestor." Dad put down the documents, flustered as he picked me up, skillfully patting my back while soothingly coaxing, "Is my sweet baby hungry? I'll go make your milk right now." Lucas was speechless. He stared dumbfounded at his usually cold and intimidating, could kill a bull with one punch best friend, now radiating a holy aura known as Dad mode. Lucas said, "Cooperation," Dad impatiently replied, "Can't you hear my daughter crying? She's crying. I need to make her milk. I've been juggling childcare and work for months and I'm exhausted. We'll talk about cooperation next time." With a snap, he ended the video call. Lucas muttered, "Damn." The next day, Lucas came in person. This time, he softened his attitude, bringing 2 boxes of baby formula and a pile of infant toys. Dad had just finished feeding me and didn't hold a grudge. Discussing the collaboration with him, after the deal was finalized, Lucas finally deigned to spare me a glance. Lucas pinched my cheek. I gave him a sweet, milky smile, warm and adorable, with big, round, sparkling eyes and rosy lips, babbling and reaching out for a hug. The bloodthirsty villain probably hadn't encountered a little baby like me before. Dazed by my smile, he instinctively picked me up, thinking that human infants weren't entirely without merit, so adorable, for a fleeting moment. His heart softened. The next moment, Lucas froze. Something warm seemed to be leaking out, soaking his hand and suit. I tilted my head, maintaining an utterly innocent and harmless expression. Holy shit, the villain let out a sharp scream. The villain's cleanliness obsession surpasses even Dad's. He rushed to the bathroom and spent a full 2 hours showering. I proudly blew bubbles in Dad's arms. "You big villain. Serves you right for egging Dad on to abandon me. Got what you deserved. Didn't you?" Dad couldn't hide the schadenfreude in his eyes, but still pretended to scold me. "That's your uncle. Don't be so rude." I let out a couple of sounds. After the villain left, Dad had already calmly changed my diaper, made a bottle to feed me, and hummed a little tune to lull me to sleep. Lucas glared darkly at my sleeping face, grumbling, "This little brat must be doing it on purpose." Dad shot him a displeased look and said, "Lower your voice when you speak. Don't wake her up. I just got her to sleep after so much effort." Lucas stretched out his mischievous paw toward my face, clearly about to shake me awake. "No way. After messing with me, she still thinks she can sleep." Dad replied coldly, "If you want to end up with a baby wailing loud enough to disturb the entire villa, go ahead and try." Lucas was speechless. Lucas glared unhappily at my sleeping face for a while before reluctantly commenting, "She's pretty, takes after you." He rarely showed interest and asked, "What was her name again?" Dad was speechless. Lucas gave him a strange look. "Don't tell me you haven't named her yet." Dad really hadn't given me a name. He usually just called me little ancestor, little brat, daughter, or sweetheart, so the 2 grown men wore out a dictionary flipping through it. Dad was extremely picky, unsatisfied with this one, dissatisfied with that one, feeling no name was good enough for me. Lucas didn't want to bother with him anymore and simply wrote a word on paper: snow, 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 crystal clear and pure as flawless jade. Is this acceptable? She will never repeat our mistakes, walking her entire life in the light. How is Snow now? "Sir, please don't panic. The doctor said it's just a common cold. Children have weaker immune systems. Has the fever gone down?" I just took some fever-reducing medicine, and it went down a little. My daughter's fever is back. Wasn't it just a common cold? Please calm down, parent. Fluctuations in a child's temperature are normal. I struggled to open my eyes wide and saw my father dozing off beside me. When he saw I was awake, he poured warm water into my bottle, capped the nipple, and put it in my hand. "Snow's awake, thirsty, have some water." I secretly watched him while sucking on the nipple. Dad's face was pale and gaunt, with a hint of blue under his eyes from staying up late, and a dispirited aura about him. Yet it didn't diminish his beauty in the slightest. I gazed at his face with infatuation. My dear father, I could never get tired of looking at your face. Dad patted my head, having long since become a qualified stay-at-home dad. Are you hungry? How about I make you some baby food? Steamed shrimp paste with eggs and snow pear with white fungus, I said. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye, and I saw my dad staying by my side without leaving for a moment. I calculated that the gang fight on the antagonist's side should have ended by now. I asked the system, has my dad's crisis ended this time? The system seemed to be checking the data and only replied after a long pause, it's over. Your dad has successfully avoided this blindness crisis. Great, my dad won't end up with one eye. What about the villain? I thought of that strikingly beautiful yet somewhat kind man and couldn't help but ask the system again. The system replied, don't worry, the villain has some protagonist aura. The plot hasn't even started yet, so he'll be fine. That day, an uninvited guest entered the hospital room. A person with their left arm in a cast stepped into the ward. Their face was exquisitely beautiful, yet their skin was porcelain white, almost translucent, with a sickly pallor, and their lips were very pale. The once domineering and frenzied arrogance has faded, leaving him now fragile and strikingly beautiful. Lucas, my big eyes darted around and landed on his arm. Didn't the system say the villain would be fine? How did you get hurt? The system was speechless. Host. For a villain as tough as the male lead, usually nothing short of death can harm them. Dad was preparing milk for me and frowned when he saw his condition. You're hurt. Lucas plopped down on the VIP ward's sofa, completely unfazed. Just a minor fracture, no big deal, Dad said. What about them? Lucas replied. Wiped out. Dad nodded in satisfaction. Oh, that's indeed a minor injury. Then he continued preparing my milk formula. Lucas raised an eyebrow, propping his chin with his uninjured hand, his captivating fox-like eyes turning to me as he began teasing the baby. I heard you can talk now. Come on, Snow, call me Uncle. Given his handsome face and the fact that he's a patient, I reluctantly obliged. Uncle, Lucas dangled the offer like a cat teasing with a treat. Such a good kid. Uncle just bought a small island not long ago. Warm climate, crystal clear waters, stunning scenery. Call me Uncle, one more time, and I'll give it to you. How about that? I said. I exclaimed with deep emotion. Uncle, this time, the call was utterly, completely sincere. Lucas burst into laughter. Snow is so clever. The island is yours now. I'll have your father handle the paperwork with me another day. I said. Uncle, like, Dad was speechless. 2 years later, the morning light streamed over the wrought iron fence of the villa area, and a Bentley slowly drove out, passing through various streets, finally stopping at the entrance of a kindergarten. Inside the car, the man in a custom-made shirt was carefully helping me adjust the crooked bow on my light pink princess dress. Dad's face hadn't changed much from 2 years ago, but his demeanor was gentler than before. 2 years ago, a blood-stained sword, heavy with killing intent. Now, barely passable as a sword wiped clean of blood. Be good and listen to your teacher at kindergarten. If anything upsets you, tell Daddy, and I'll deal with the bad guys who bully my precious. The handsome man patted my head, his voice deep yet filled with affection. I nodded obediently and said, okay, Dad. Actually, I didn't want to go to kindergarten. With the mind of an adult, I had to face a bunch of noisy and childish kids, along with the boring and uninteresting content like teachers teaching children to wash hands, dress, recognize words, and sing nursery rhymes. My face turned a bit green. The system said, Host, the second turning point in your father's life will occur in half a month. When he goes to H City to attend the bidding meeting, he will be framed by the enemy. The female lead will help him, and then he will fall in love with her at first sight. This time's plot invasion is extremely contagious. You must come up with a foolproof plan to firmly stop your dad from going to H City. As long as you miss this encounter, the plot won't be able to influence your dad anymore. The system paused for a moment, then added the original plot. Before this, the villain had already found the girl who saved him when he was young, who is also the female lead. After your dad falls in love with the female lead, he will develop a rift with the villain, leading to a bitter feud. Coupled with the female lead's official male lead, it will escalate into a life and death battle in the later stages. Your dad, who was originally destined to lose an eye, will be the first to be eliminated. Host, please be prepared to change the tragic fate of the cannon fodder. I said. All right, I understand. Dad carried my backpack and held my hand as we got off the car. Today was the first day of kindergarten, and many parents arrived holding their children's hands. The little ones, each carrying small backpacks, were full of energy, hopping and skipping along the way. One child clung to their parent like a koala, crying uncontrollably and screaming, "I don't want to go to school. I want mommy and daddy." The parents and teachers tried to comfort the child with gentle words, but the little one only cried even harder. This outburst of crying was no small matter. It quickly spread to the other children, who also began wailing, clutching at their parents' clothes and pants, refusing to let them leave. The entrance of the kindergarten became as noisy and chaotic as a bustling marketplace. I was speechless. Human sorrows and joys are not shared, whether it was the curious, chattering children or those crying with snot and tears streaming down their faces. I found none of it amusing, only loud and irritating. I've always preferred quiet, frowning as I looked around. Hardly any of the little ones were behaving. The thought of spending my days cooped up with these endlessly energetic kids made me feel like the sky was falling. I'd rather stay at Dad's company, being the mascot for all the uncles and aunts, letting them pat my head, pinch my cheeks, and braid my hair. Do I really have to go to this kindergarten? Completely forgetting how I'd been tormenting my poor father for the past few years. Father's figure and appearance stood out prominently among the group of parents, eliciting looks of admiration from both teachers and parents alike. Without glancing sideways, Father held my hand and led me into the kindergarten, handing me over to the teacher in charge of my class. Before leaving, he crouched down, patted my head, and said, "Snow, eat well and pay attention in class. If anyone bullies you, fight back. If you can't handle it, tell Dad, and I'll take care of them." The teacher's smile stiffened. She clearly wanted to say something about fostering harmony and friendship among children, but knowing the man's identity, she chose to remain silent. I shook his hand. "Dad, remember to pick me up this afternoon." Dad smiled. "Okay," sitting in the seat assigned by the teacher. During class, the teacher taught the children to sing nursery rhymes, build blocks, count. A break between classes, the kids were outside playing on the small playground equipment, sliding down the slide, seesawing, and climbing the jungle gym, while I leisurely sat in the classroom reading a business English magazine, which I had taken from my dad's office. A 3 or 4-year-old girl with pigtails, very pretty, hugged her teddy bear and shyly approached me. "Hello, my name is Lily. Can we be friends? I can share my teddy bear with you and play together." The corners of my lips lifted slightly. "Hello, my name is Snow." As I spoke, I pulled a few candies from the drawer and was about to hand them to her. Just then, a chubby little boy appeared out of nowhere, his body stout, and he snatched the candies from my hand, muttering, "Mine, mine." My expression darkened instantly as I glared at the little boy with a chilling gaze. The little chubby boy was startled, but quickly regained his composure. He made a face at us, provocatively unwrapped the candy, and tossed it into his mouth. "Can't hit me, can't hit me." In a flash, he was gone without a trace. However, the teacher was outside watching the children and didn't see this scene. The little girl froze, her grape-like eyes welling up with tears. I pulled out another handful of candies from my pocket. "Don't cry, there's more here." The little girl, I smiled, not bothering to argue with this brat. "It's fine, just a few candies." When I walked outside to get some sun, I saw that little bully snatching things from other kids again. Looking smug, the teacher comforted the crying child, her gaze toward the chubby little boy clearly tinged with disgust and wariness. "Tom, it's wrong to bully other children like this." The chubby boy stuck out his tongue. "Naya, Naya, Naya." My mind raced with thoughts. The little brat was clearly a spoiled troublemaker from a privileged family, the type who would snatch anything he fancied, utterly self-centered and arrogant. His designer children's clothes were a dead giveaway, and even the teacher didn't dare cross him. His family background must be impressive, I mused idly. No matter how well off his family was, could they possibly compare to mine? "Sucker, found you." At 4:30 in the afternoon, kindergarten was over. Dad came to pick me up. He took my backpack, fastened my seatbelt, and asked gently, "How was your first day at kindergarten? Did anyone bully you?" I thought for a moment and said, "I made a friend. Her name is Luli, a very beautiful girl. The food at kindergarten is good. No one bullied me." Dad was driving. "That's good." Just then, Lucas called. Dad raised his hand to answer. "Hey, George." Lucas's voice sounded a bit dazed. Dad said, "Spit it out." Lucas hesitated. I think I found her." Hearing there was gossip, I immediately pricked up my ears to listen. Dad stopped the car at a red light. "Found who?" Lucas said. "The girl who saved me back then." Dad asked. You like her? Lucas remained silent for a while before replying. Yeah, Dad was astonished. Huh, really? I thought you'd just give her some money or resources to repay her and be done with it. Someone as cold-hearted and profit-driven as you can actually like someone. Lucas was speechless. I was speechless. No, Dad, how could you be so blunt? I heard the sound of a lighter on his end. Lucas seemed to have lit a cigarette, his voice low and hoarse. I just fell for her. Okay, hurry up and give me some advice. Dad was baffled. If you like her, just go for it. What kind of advice can I give? That face of yours has always been your winning card, Lucas said irritably. But she already likes someone else. She won't even look me in the face, Father said. Then go and take it by force. There's nothing you can't seize. Once you've taken it, it's yours. A cold smile appeared on his flawlessly handsome face. As for the person she likes, just eliminate them. After that, exploit her weaknesses. Isolate her until she has no one to rely on but you. Won't she be yours then? I was speechless. I was dumbfounded. I had thought that after raising a child for 3 years, my father had become gentler, kinder, and started cultivating his character. Result, this guy is even more villainous than the actual villain, Lucas exclaimed excitedly. Perfect, I was thinking the same thing. I tried to persuade him, Uncle. Forced relationships never work out, Lucas said. Is that snow? Let me tell you, kid, you won't know if the melon is sweet until you twist it off. Listen. Uncle's gonna teach you something. If you want something, you've got to snatch it. Fight for it, otherwise, it'll just end up in someone else's pocket. I was speechless. I swallowed hard, really wanting to advise them. Could you at least try to follow the law a little? And seriously, what kind of messed up lesson is that, Daddy? Dad turned his head to glance at me, the disdain on his face vanishing, replaced by a fatherly kindness. The double standard utterly blatant. You're mistaken. If Snow wants something, she doesn't need to snatch it, Dad said. If Snow just says the word, I'll snatch it for her directly. No need for her to lift a finger. I was speechless. Lucas was speechless. I said, has my dad always been like this? The system replied, they are all illegitimate children abandoned by powerful families, enduring humiliation in their youth, walking a path of thorns step by step. The consequence of not fighting or being soft-hearted is becoming a corpse. Self-interest, scheming, and plundering have long become their instincts. One can't entirely blame them for developing such a worldview, but those who dwell in darkness naturally yearn for light. Later, the heroine's appearance was like a ray of light, illuminating them, making them throw themselves at her like moths to a flame, foolishly attempting to grasp the moon. But it's clear that the heroine will only love the male lead. They are destined to seek but never obtain. The day when Dad goes to the bidding is getting closer and closer. I was leisurely attending kindergarten. The system couldn't help but feel anxious. Host, have you figured out a way to stop your dad from going to H-City? I said. No rush. This day, I brought a beautiful music box to kindergarten that could glow and sing. I deliberately walked past the little chubby kid with it, and the exquisite, tiny music box instantly caught his attention, his beady eyes immediately fixed on it. Drool almost dripping, as he shouted loudly, Snow, give me your music box. I hid the music box behind my back, pouting and saying, no way, Dad just bought this for me, and I've only just started playing with it. The chubby boy's face instantly turned bright red, veins bulging on his forehead as he roared angrily, give it to me, I want the music box. With that, he stretched out his plump, chubby hand, grabbed the edge of the music box, and yanked hard. I clung tightly to the music box. My little face flushed red with effort. The two of us were locked in a stalemate, the music box shaking violently between us. The chubby kid suddenly exerted force, leaning forward with all his might, pushing me backward in one swift motion. I completely lost my balance, flying backward like a kite with its string cut, spotting the raised edge of a floor tile. I deliberately slammed my shin against it with full force. Crack! The system was stunned. Host, wait, you! A sharp pain shot through my calf, though I felt cold and calm inside. My face instantly turned pale, and I burst into tears with a loud, wah. The chubby boy showed no remorse. Instead, he shook the music box at me and said, serves you right for not giving it to me. Hearing my cries, Teacher Chan rushed over, seeing my swollen calf. Her heart skipped a beat. Snow, what happened? Your leg. Tears kept streaming down my face as I pointed at the smug little boy. Woo-woo. He took my music box and pushed me. Other teachers also rushed over and saw this scene. 2 words emerged in their hearts with despair. It's over. Teacher Chan immediately called for emergency assistance and notified both sets of parents. The system panicked. Host, are you okay? I glanced down at my calf. It's nothing, just a minor fracture, no big deal. The system exclaimed, you call this no big deal? I answered irrelevantly, Dad probably won't go to City H anymore. The system was speechless. I don't know what my dad said on his end, but he must have been really angry because the teacher looked like she was about to cry. The ambulance arrived very quickly. The medical staff carefully secured me to the stretcher, lifted me into the ambulance, and took me to the hospital. By the time my father arrived, he saw me lying on the hospital bed, my face still streaked with tears, pale and fragile. My eyes swollen like walnuts, and my right leg encased in a thick white cast. When I saw my father, I wanted to throw myself into his arms for comfort as usual, but my lower body wouldn't move, so I began to sob quietly again. Dad, it hurts. My father seemed to have come straight from some meeting, dressed in a suit, though somewhat disheveled. His brows were tightly furrowed, his face dark and terrifying, the palpable killing intent making the nearby medical staff tremble in fear. Dad leaned over and gently pulled me into his arms, his voice carrying an eerie sense of comfort and gentleness. Snow, don't be afraid, it won't hurt, Daddy will get justice for you. The system hesitated. Is the next line, the weather's getting cold, the Wang family is going bankrupt, I said, probably. I clung to my father's lapel, hiding the calculation in my eyes. Daddy, can you stay with me? It hurts so much. All thoughts of tenders and business trips flew out of Dad's head as he was overcome with guilt. It's Daddy's fault for being careless. Daddy was wrong. I'll stay with you until you recover, the system said. Awesome. Just then Aunt Zhang arrived, seeing me so weak and pale. Her heart ached instantly, and tears welled up. My poor dear, that damned little brat hurt Snow like this, Dad said calmly. Aunt Zhang, please look after Snow for now. I need to go handle this matter. Aunt Zhang nodded hurriedly. Dad left the ward and closed the door. I didn't care about the outcome of the chubby kid's family, as long as Dad stayed in the capital and didn't go to H City, missing the encounter with the female lead. It would be fine. During my recovery period, my father stayed by my side without leaving for a moment, even abandoning his usual motto of, let go when necessary, and moved his company affairs to the hospital room to handle them. He took care of me, cooked delicious meals for me, told stories to lull me to sleep, and accompanied me through rehabilitation. I didn't even catch a glimpse of the female lead. Luli came to visit me and chatted with me, saying she hadn't seen the little chubby kid at the kindergarten since that day. TSK, Dad's efficiency is truly impressive. After I was discharged from the hospital, as a patient, I was pampered to the point of glowing with health, almost gaining a noticeable weight, while Dad... I glanced at him guiltily. He had become so emaciated that if not for his face, his wandering on the streets would have truly resembled a zombie. During that time, Lucas came to see me once, before he could even express his concern. My father's haggard and pale appearance shocked him. Lucas muttered, if I marry Sherry in the future, I absolutely won't have kids. Sherry is the female lead, full name Sherry Smith. I was speechless. You're counting your chickens before they hatch? Dream on. His father scoffed mercilessly, marriage my ass, has Sherry even accepted you? Lucas felt as if an arrow had pierced his heart, his defenses shattered, and he muttered darkly, she'd better be smart and not push me. I stared blankly, speechless. It wasn't like I hadn't tried to make the villain give up on the female lead. There were plenty of fish in the sea, so why obsess over just one flower? I wanted to pull him out of the plot, but unfortunately, the female lead has an irresistible attraction to the villain. She can't be pulled away and even snapped at me. I'm exhausted. Let go of the savior complex and respect others' fate. I'd better save my dad first. The current plot has reached the point where the villain desperately pursues, harasses, the female lead, who tries in vain to escape his advances, while the male lead suddenly intervenes, creating a tangled and complicated three-way relationship. Meanwhile, my dad successfully stepped off the chessboard, avoiding the pains of love and disability, only to endure the struggles of raising a child. Learning from this lesson, Dad then enrolled me in an elite kindergarten. The children there were mostly young masters and misses from prominent families, well-mannered and emotionally stable, and they were all aware of each other's backgrounds. Even the most spoiled and willful children were warned by their parents not to bully their classmates. I had a rather pleasant time there. 2 more years passed. The same old tune continued. The villain was caught up in gang fights. While my dad worked to raise the kids, the villain kidnapped the heroine. While my dad worked to raise the kids, the female lead ran away. The villain went to catch her. She ran. He chased. Neither could escape. My dad was at work raising kids. The villain went crazy opposing the male lead. My dad was still at work raising kids. When news came from the villain's side that the female lead had run away again, Dad was telling me a bedtime story. The princess imprisoned the prince, took out an AK-47 to kill the useless king, became the empress herself, kept a bunch of handsome male concubines, and lived happily ever after. Okay, time to sleep. In Lucas's eyes, the male lead Simon was practically sent by heaven to torment him. Ridiculously strong and impossible to kill no matter what he tried, originally. He thought this was his own business and didn't intend to involve my dad, but after the female lead escaped again with the male lead's help, and the male lead outmaneuvered him in the business arena, Lucas completely lost it. He went straight to his dad and said, "George, do me a favor, let's team up and crush that bastard Simon." Dad agreed without hesitation, but then immediately stood him up. Lucas was speechless. Because I was recently stalked by a pedophile, and when my dad found out, he almost went crazy with anger. Dad immediately took some people to capture the pedophile in an abandoned factory, castrated him, beat him half to death, and then spent the next few days gathering all kinds of evidence. He successfully got the pedophile sent to prison and made sure the inmates would take good care of him. Afterward, Dad felt like he had forgotten something. But I felt that whatever I'd forgotten couldn't have been important, so I didn't pay it any mind. So when Lucas was once again driven to fury by Simon, Dad belatedly came to his senses and showed up at his door. "Do you still need my help?" Lucas cradled a bracelet, wallowing in melancholy. "No need. Sherry is already pregnant with that bastard Simon's child. I've completely lost all hope," Dad said. "As if you ever had any hope to begin with." The system showed some pity. "The villain is so pitiful, no matter how hard he tries, he can't win. Your dad's first two major crises have already passed, and this time there's no real danger. Won't you let your dad help the villain?" I took a bite of an apple and remained silent. The male lead is the chosen one by fate. There's no winning against him. My dad has no grudge against him. Rather than letting him accompany the villain to hit a snag and then clean up the mess after losing, it's better to help me deal with that disgusting creature. I rubbed my arms. Damn it, that pedophile has been following me for 2 days, giving me goosebumps. At least he can still be put to some use. The system was speechless. The male lead and female lead are about to get married. Lucas came to my house to drink sorrows with my dad, mourning his lost love. Now, my dad, who's solely focused on raising kids and has never been in a relationship, can't understand it, neither can I, who remained single until death in my past life. For the two of us in the past, raising a child and changing Dad's fate had already exhausted all our strength. For the two of us now, love is far less important than living well in the present, but we still silently respect it. Dad drank with Lucas, while I sipped juice on the side. Lucas was drunk, his strikingly beautiful face flushed red. Soon, tears began to fall from his eyes, one by one, as fragile as a child. Clutching his father's sleeve tightly, he choked out, "George, I have no hope left, do I?" His father stroked his sweat-dampened forehead and let him lean into his embrace, just like when they were two wounded wolf cubs in childhood, wary of each other yet seeking warmth in each other's arms. They were brothers, companions, yet also rivals, fierce adversaries. They were cold-hearted and ruthless, scheming against each other without hesitation, yet never hesitated to lend a hand when the other was in trouble. A malicious cannon fodder, a ruthless villain. They are true careerists and egoists, not daring to say the other is the most important in their lives, but absolutely indispensable. A rare hint of tenderness appeared in father's stern brows as he said, "Lucas, you still have me and Snow. You will never be alone. Time flies like flowing water." After my father and I continuously worked on persuading him, Lucas finally let go of the female lead and also freed himself. The male lead and female lead held a grand wedding, and after 10 months of pregnancy, the female lead gave birth to a son named Jasper, but none of it had anything to do with me, until I went with my dad to Jasper's first birthday celebration. Lucas was abroad negotiating with someone at the time, so he just sent a gift and didn't attend. At the banquet, the male lead Simon was dressed in a white suit, his tall and slender figure resembling bamboo. His appearance was of the gentle and handsome type, with any sharp edges well concealed beneath that exterior. like an elegant and timeless ink painting. His peach blossom eyes carried a hint of laughter, and as the light shifted, they exuded a silent, captivating allure. He was entirely different from the villain and my father. One was as refined as jade, another as dazzling as fire, and the last as cold and sharp as a blade. Yet all equally black-hearted, the female lead truly lives up to being the woman pursued by three men simultaneously in the original plot, and even more impressively, she repeatedly managed to escape from the antagonist's grasp on her own. Her appearance is far from the naive, simple, and delicate look typical of cliché romance novels. On the contrary, her features are bold and radiant, blazing like the scorching sun, bold and unapologetic. With a slight curve of her red lips and a flicker of her captivating eyes, she seems capable of dispelling all the darkness around her. I still remember how she saved the antagonist in the story, leaving him haunted by her memory for years. Night, the beautiful young girl dragged the disheveled young antagonist along as they sprinted wildly, weaving through twists and turns before nimbly climbing up a tree. Reach out, quick, the little villain reached out. And the little girl pulled him up the tree without hesitation. The little girl beamed with a radiant smile. Little brother, how about I get revenge for you? The little villain lifted his bruised and battered face, his eyes like stagnant water, gloomy, withdrawn, lifeless, like a lost ghost with nowhere to belong. The little girl showed no fear at all, pulling out a slingshot from her pocket along with the small stones she had collected along the way. Soon after, chaotic footsteps echoed through the alley. Where did that brat run off to? The beams from their flashlights swung wildly, and their cursing voices were especially jarring in the quiet night. Keep looking, that jinx can't have gone far. The little girl aimed her slingshot at a rather unmentionable part of the leading thug's anatomy and let fly. Ah, one of them screamed in agony. My balls, damn it, my head. Another person, terrified of getting hit in the groin, quickly covered himself but tripped over a raised section of the road. He then crashed into someone else, sending the whole group tumbling into a tangled heap. The little girl let out a triumphant laugh. Ha 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 ha, serves you right. Where did this little bitch come from? You, a loud smack echoed. Ah, my tooth. The little girl's voice was bright and nonchalant. Your mouth is so foul, go wash it. The young antagonist turned to look at the girl's bold brows and eyes. His dim gaze seemingly brightened a little by the moonlight. Come on, let's go. The little girl moved with agility, standing atop the wall. In a few quick moves, she descended from the other side, then turned back to find a rope and help the young antagonist down as well. The little girl taught the young villain, if you encounter this situation again, don't be timid or afraid. Hurt him, cripple him. Only then will that filthy hyena dare not repeat his offense. If you can't win at the moment, retreat temporarily, build up your strength, then ambush him and take him down. The young villain nodded thoughtfully. It's getting late, let me walk you home. Standing at his doorstep, the little girl smiled faintly, her eyes bright, warm and inclusive. Though it was a pitch-black night, she was like a blazing flame, dispelling the bone-chilling cold. Well, little brother, good night. Yet the world is impermanent, and things come full circle. In the end, it all boils down to one phrase. Destined yet unfulfilled. Dad glanced at Jasper, lost in thought, and gave my paw a squeeze. Snow, did I forget to hold your 1-year-old ceremony back then? I said, well, it's fine if we didn't. It's not that important anyway, Father said with heartache and guilt. Others have what you don't. I replied helplessly. Dad, have you forgotten how busy you were back then? Do you really think it's easy to walk the line between black and white? The guests were all eagerly discussing what item Jasper would pick up. I wonder what the young master will pick. If he grabs a stethoscope, does that mean he'll become a doctor in the future? Tisk, it's just a formality. After all, he's the eldest son of the Taylor family. He'll most likely inherit the family business. Don't take it too seriously. I greeted the male and female leads politely. Hello, uncle, aunt. Simon couldn't resist patting my head with a gentle smile. Snow is here. I shamelessly replied, I'm here to freeload some food and drinks. Sherry crouched down, smiling as she wiped my face. Long time no see. Snow, you've grown taller and prettier. I chuckled twice. I think so too. After greeting them, I walked forward and looked curiously at the 1-year-old child on the round table. His face was delicate and beautiful, and his skin was fair and tender. I could imagine how graceful and charming he would be when he grew up. He truly is the son of the male and female protagonists. In addition to the baby, There were also various items for the ceremony on the table: pen, book, abacus, golf club, stethoscope, car model, but the little baby didn't even glance at them. With a pair of peach blossom eyes inherited from the male lead, he stared straight at me, babbled twice, and crawled toward me. Along the way, he found other objects bothersome and pushed them aside. I stood leisurely in place, curious to see what he intended to do. A slightly cool little hand reached up and touched my face. I was slightly stunned. At that moment, my father's terrified shout rang in my ears: "Simon, you little bastard, get your son's hand off my daughter's face." Off. His shout wouldn't have been a big deal, but it drew the attention of all the guests to the two of us. I was speechless. Simon was speechless. Sherry was speechless. The guests were speechless. The sound scared the little ones so much that they wrapped their arms around my neck and clung to me with their whole body. I held them without changing my expression. Can't just pull him down and throw him away, right? With peach blossom eyes welling up with tears, the little baby actually slowly uttered a few words, extremely aggrieved. "Pretty sister, I'm scared." My heart almost melted from the cuteness. So adorable. The male and female leads were speechless. Dad couldn't hold back and immediately plucked Jasper off me, staring expressionlessly at this little green tea brat. His father stole his brother's woman, and now this little runt grabbed nothing at the first birthday ceremony except my daughter. Damn it, get the hell away. Jasper flailed his limbs in confusion before returning to his biological father's embrace. Dad forced a smile. "Mr. Taylor, please keep an eye on your little brat. My daughter isn't someone just anyone can be worthy of." Simon, while comforting his aggrieved son, smiled humbly. "It's just children playing around, don't take it seriously." Why is Mr. George getting so worked up? Dad didn't like this smiling tiger at all, and sneered. "Let's hope so." The system hesitated. "Host," I said. The system bit its little handkerchief. "I suddenly saw a thin red thread connecting you and Jasper." I was shocked. I just hugged him once. How did we get connected by a red thread? The system was also excited. "Did you forget this is his Zhuazhou ceremony? The first thing he grabbed was you. I can't even begin to comment on this fate between you two." I glanced at the adorable little baby with fair, tender skin. "Isn't this the kind of absurdly dramatic plot that only happens in novels?" The system replied. "Did you forget that you're currently inside a novel? Of course, it's going to be as dramatic as possible." I said. "Damn." The system continued. "However, the red thread isn't very thick. The final outcome still depends on you, because you changed your father's fate, freeing him from the plot, and you, the host, are also someone who exists outside the storyline. The heavenly rules can't control you. You two are destined, but if you resist too much, it might remain an unfulfilled fate." I smiled and said, "Even if there's fate, it wouldn't be now. I'm 7 years old, and he just turned 1. Our growth paths are mismatched. By the time he's in elementary school, I'll already be in college. We wouldn't even be able to play together." While my dad was skillfully deflecting the conversation with others, not paying attention to me, I walked up to Jasper again. Jasper sat obediently on the table, staring at me without blinking, and said, "Sister." My heart melted instantly. So adorable. I must have been this cute when I was little, I thought narcissistically. I took out the longevity lock I had prepared earlier and gently placed it around his neck. It was the most sincere blessing one could give a child. "May you be healthy and safe, joyful and carefree. The rest, let time take care of it." On the way home, I lay on Dad's back, swinging my legs. "Dad, when will Uncle Lou come back? I miss him." Dad adjusted his hold under my bottom to keep me from slipping. "It'll be a couple more days." I said. "Okay." I also want to ask him when he can take me to the island he gave me. Dad said, "Your teacher said you scored 100 in both Chinese and math. What do you want to eat?" "Dad will make it for you tonight." I excitedly started ordering. Coke chicken wings, braised fish, bell pepper shrimp paste. Dad's eyes were full of tenderness. "All right, Dad, Dad, I love you, Dad." Dad suddenly smiled. "Snow, I love you too." After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.